Welcome to Storytales. Please like this video and subscribe to Storytales. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. Cole Matthews stared at the empty side of the bed where his wife should have been sleeping. The digital clock on the nightstand blinked 11:45 p.m., its red numbers casting a faint glow across the rumpled sheets. Jenna had left for her evening run 2 hours ago, claiming she needed to maintain her new fitness routine. He ran his hand over the cold cotton, his wedding ring catching the moonlight streaming through the window. Something felt wrong. It had for months now. The change in Jenna had been gradual, like watching autumn leaves turn color, so subtle you barely notice until suddenly everything's different. 6 months ago, she'd announced her dedication to improving her health, declaring that evening runs would become her new ritual. Cole had supported her enthusiasm, even offering to join her, but she'd insisted on going alone, claiming she needed the solitude to clear her head. Their last real conversation played through his mind. It had been over dinner 3 weeks ago. He'd cooked her favorite pasta, hoping to recreate one of their date nights from early in their marriage. "Remember when we used to do this every Friday?" Cole had asked, pouring her a glass of wine. "We'd cook together, talk about everything and nothing." Jenna had merely nodded, checking her phone for the third time since sitting down. "Things change. We're busier now." "Are we?" "We used to make time for each other." He'd reached for her hand across the table, but she'd pulled away, claiming she needed both hands to cut her food. "I'm making time for myself now," she'd replied, her tone defensive. "There's nothing wrong with that." "Of course not. I just miss you." She'd looked up then, meeting his eyes for a brief moment before glancing away. "I'm right here, Cole. You're being dramatic." But she wasn't there. Not really. Not anymore now. Cole pushed himself up and walked to the window, scanning the quiet suburban street below. No sign of Jenna's familiar jogging silhouette. Their neighborhood was safe, but worry gnawed at his gut. He pulled out his phone and opened their message thread. "Everything okay?" He typed, then deleted it. He'd sent similar messages before, only to receive delayed responses about extended cool-down walks or catching up with another jogger. The sound of keys jingling at the front door drew his attention. Cole remained at the window, listening to Jenna's footsteps in the foyer, followed by the soft thud of her running shoes being kicked off. He didn't turn when she entered their bedroom. "You're still up?" Jenna's voice carried a note of surprise, maybe irritation. Cole turned slowly. She stood in the doorway, wearing black leggings and a fitted running jacket, her blonde hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Despite claiming to have just finished a run, her skin barely glistened with sweat, and her breathing was perfectly steady. "Couldn't sleep," he replied, studying her face. "How was your run?" "Good. The usual." Jenna moved to their en-suite bathroom, avoiding his gaze. "I'm going to take a shower." The bathroom door closed with a decisive click, and moments later, water started running. Cole sat on the edge of the bed, his mind racing. In 6 months of this new routine, Jenna hadn't lost an ounce of weight, not that she needed to. Her body remained exactly the same as before she started this fitness kick. More concerning was how their marriage had changed during this time. That he thought back to their anniversary dinner last month. They'd gone to Antonio's, the Italian restaurant where they'd had their first date. Cole had made reservations weeks in advance, remembering how they used to love sharing the tiramisu there. "We should do this more often," he'd suggested, watching her push pasta around her plate. She'd been distracted, her phone face down on the table, but vibrating periodically with messages. "Dinner. Just us. Like we used to." "Oh, yes, we should." But her tone had been non-committal, and she'd spent most of the evening checking her phone when she thought he wasn't looking. The intimate moments had dwindled entirely. Movie nights on the couch had been replaced by her solo running sessions. Their conversations had become superficial, focusing on household logistics rather than the deep discussions they used to share. When he tried to kiss her, she'd turn her head so his lips landed on her cheek, or she'd quickly break away, claiming she needed to check something in another room. Last week, he'd tried to surprise her with lunch at her office. She'd acted flustered, almost angry, saying she had too much work and rushing him out the door. Through the glass walls of her office, he'd watched her immediately pick up her phone. Typing rapidly, Cole lay back on the bed, remembering how different things had been just a year ago. They talked about starting a family, spent weekends exploring new restaurants, and couldn't keep their hands off each other. Now, it felt like living with a stranger who wore his wife's face. The shower stopped running, and Cole quickly turned onto his side, facing away from the bathroom door. He heard Jenna moving around the room, the soft rustle of clothes, the click of her phone being plugged into charge. The bed dipped as she got in, but she stayed on her edge, leaving a gulf of cold sheets between them. "Good night," she murmured, her voice already distant. Cole didn't respond, pretending to be asleep. In the darkness, he listened to her breathing, wondering when his wife had become such a skilled liar. Because that's what this was, he was certain now. Every good night was a lie. Every kiss on the cheek was a lie. Every "I love you" had become a lie. Tomorrow, he decided, he would start paying closer attention. He would watch for patterns, document the changes, and figure out exactly what or who had stolen his wife away from him. Because something had changed 6 months ago, and Cole was determined to find out what it was. As he lay there in the dark, his mind raced through possibilities. Was it someone in her office? A friend he didn't know about? The not knowing was eating him alive, but he forced himself to stay calm, to think logically. He would find answers, but he needed to be smart about it. The next morning, Jenna was gone before he woke up, another new habit that had developed recently. She used to love their shared morning routine, coffee together, planning their day. Now she left early, claiming she needed to beat traffic or meet clients for breakfast meetings. Cole got ready for work mechanically, his mind already forming a plan. He would start documenting everything: her absences, her excuses, the changes in her behavior. He would become as methodical about uncovering her lies as she had become about telling them. The following Monday, Cole sat at his desk at Bradford & Associates, where he worked as a senior account manager. The stack of reports on his desk remained untouched as he stared at his computer screen, not really seeing the spreadsheet displayed there. He'd spent the weekend watching Jenna, noting how she kept her phone close, always angled away from him, always password protected. Another new habit. That a soft knock interrupted his thoughts. "Mr. Matthews?" Marissa stood in the doorway, her face etched with concern. His secretary held a stack of papers, but he could tell from her expression that they weren't her real reason for coming in. "Your 10 a.m. called to reschedule." "And?" She hesitated, then continued, "Are you feeling all right? You seem distracted lately." Cole managed a weak smile. Marissa had been his secretary for 5 years, and her efficiency and loyalty had made her more of a friend than an employee. She'd helped him plan his anniversary surprises for Jenna, remembered his important dates, and always seemed to know when he needed an extra strong coffee. "I'm fine, just—" He paused, debating whether to share his concerns. The words felt heavy in his mouth. "Marissa, you live near the Clayton Heights area, right?" "Yes, just off Madison Street." She tilted her head, puzzled by the question. "Why do you ask?" Cole leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Have you ever seen Jenna running in that area? She mentions running there sometimes." The shift in Marissa's expression was subtle, but unmistakable. She closed Cole's office door and approached his desk, her heels clicking softly on the hardwood floor. "Mr. Matthews?" "Cole." She sat in one of the client chairs, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I've been wanting to tell you something, but I wasn't sure if I should." Cole's heart began to race, but he kept his voice steady. "Tell me." "Last Wednesday evening, I was picking up takeout from that new Thai place on 4th Street. Marissa's voice was gentle but firm. "I saw Jenna, but she wasn't running. She was entering the Grand Plaza Hotel, wearing a dress, not workout clothes." The words hit Cole like a physical blow. He gripped the edge of his desk, his knuckles turning white. The Grand Plaza was one of the city's most expensive hotels, known for its discretion and luxury. "Are you sure it was her?" "Positive. I almost called out to her, but—" Marissa hesitated, twisting her hands in her lap. "She was with someone, a man in a suit. They walked in together, but I couldn't see his face clearly from where I was standing." Cole's throat felt dry. His mind raced through possibilities, trying to find innocent explanations, but each attempt felt hollow. What time was this? Around 8:30 p.m., the same time Jenna claimed to be running. Cole remembered that night. Clearly, now she'd returned home at 10:45, talking about trying a new jogging route with better lighting. He'd even made her tea while she showered, worried she might catch cold from running so late. "Did you see what kind of car they arrived in?" His voice sounded strange to his own ears. Detached, Marissa shook her head. "I only saw them walking in." "But Cole." She leaned forward, her voice softer. "I've seen them 3 more times since then. Always the same hotel, always around the same time. I wanted to tell you sooner, but you weren't sure how I'd take it," he finished for her. The rage building inside him must have shown on his face, because Marissa looked worried. "What are you going to do?" Cole stood up, walking to his office window. The city sprawled below, people going about their lives, unaware that his world was crumbling. "First, I need to be sure. Really sure. What nights have you seen them?" Marissa pulled out her phone, scrolling through her calendar. "Wednesday nights, usually. Sometimes Mondays. Always between 8 o'clock and 8:30. Cole turned back to his desk, pulling up his own calendar. He began marking dates, everything clicking into place. Jenna's running schedule had been consistent Monday and Wednesday evenings, occasionally Fridays. She always left around 7:30, claiming she needed to stretch first, and returned between 10:30 and 11 o'clock. "Thank you for telling me, Marissa." Cole struggled to keep his voice steady. "I'd appreciate if you kept this between us." "Of course." Marissa stood, hesitating before adding, "If you need anything, evidence times dates, I've been keeping track. Just in case." After she left, Cole buried himself in work, trying to distract himself from the burning in his chest. But his mind kept wandering to the Grand Plaza Hotel, imagining Jenna walking through those elegant doors with another man. By late afternoon, he had a plan. That evening, Cole watched Jenna prepare for another run. She moved around their bedroom with practiced ease, pulling on her usual workout attire while chatting about a client meeting from earlier that day. He noticed how she avoided meeting his eyes in the mirror as she tied her hair back. "Maybe I'll join you tonight," he suggested, testing her reaction. That Jenna's hands faltered for a moment as she adjusted her ponytail. "Oh, I don't think that's a good idea. I'm planning to push myself pretty hard tonight, and you haven't run in ages. You just slow me down." The casual cruelty of her words stung, but Cole maintained his composure. "You're probably right. Have a good run." As soon as she left, Cole grabbed his car keys and jacket. His hands trembled slightly as he followed her at a distance, staying far enough back to avoid detection. Instead of heading toward any of the usual running paths, Jenna walked several blocks to a coffee shop parking lot. A silver BMW pulled up alongside her, and she quickly got in. Cole memorized the license plate number, his hands shaking as he wrote it down. He followed the BMW through the city streets, maintaining a safe distance. Just as Marissa had said, they pulled up to the Grand Plaza Hotel. Cole parked across the street, watching as Jenna and a tall, well-dressed man walked into the lobby together. Even from his position, he could see how comfortable they were with each other, how the man's hand rested on the small of Jenna's back as they entered the building. Cole sat in his car for hours, his hands gripping the steering wheel until his fingers went numb. At 10:15, they emerged together. The man kissed Jenna in the shadows of the hotel entrance before she got back into his car. Cole followed them to the coffee shop where they'd met earlier. He watched Jenna get out, now dressed in her running clothes again, and begin jogging toward home as if nothing had happened. The BMW drove away in the opposite direction that night. When Jenna returned home, flushed and breathing heavily from her supposed run, Cole felt bile rise in his throat. She talked about the beautiful evening and how good it felt to exercise, while he fought the urge to scream the truth at her. Instead, he smiled and nodded, playing along with her charade. But inside, something hardened. He would gather more evidence, document everything, build an irrefutable case. Then, when the time was right, he would confront her with the truth of her betrayal. Over the next 3 weeks, Cole gathered evidence methodically, documenting each of Jenna's meetings with the mystery man. He created a detailed log on his work computer, recording dates, times, and locations. Each entry felt like another nail in the coffin of his marriage, but he forced himself to be thorough, to leave no room for denial or explanation. During one of his surveillance evenings, Cole positioned himself closer to the hotel entrance, hidden behind a newspaper in the lobby's coffee shop. He watched as Jenna and her companion checked in, catching their conversation at the front desk. "Welcome back, Mr. Reynolds," the clerk said warmly. "Your usual room is ready." "Thanks, James." The man Travis Reynolds smiled, his hand possessively on Jenna's waist. "We'll be having dinner sent up." Cole's fingers tightened on the newspaper, nearly tearing it. Their usual room. They had a usual room. The casual familiarity of it all made his stomach turn. He added the name to his growing file. Travis Reynolds, regular guest at the Grand Plaza Hotel, drives a silver BMW, license plate number GKL-4729.AT home. Cole maintained a facade of normalcy that felt like wearing a mask made of broken glass. Each morning, he'd kiss Jenna goodbye as she left for work, knowing she was probably texting Travis the moment she got in her car. Each evening, he'd listen to her lies about her running routine, watching her perfect The Art of Deception. One evening, as Jenna prepared dinner, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Cole caught a glimpse of the message preview before she could snatch it away. "Can't wait for Wednesday. Same time, same place. Work thing?" Cole asked casually, noting how quickly she deleted the message. "Just a client," Jenna replied smoothly, turning back to the stove. "We're trying to close a big deal this week." Cole wanted to laugh at the irony. She'd become so comfortable with lying that she didn't even hesitate anymore. "Must be an important client. Meeting after hours." "That's the job," she said, stirring the pasta sauce with unnecessary force. "You know how it is?" "I do now," he muttered under his breath, adding the text exchange to his mental file of evidence. "AT work." Marissa continued to be his silent ally, keeping track of Jenna's visits to the hotel whenever she spotted them. She'd created a spreadsheet, documenting times, dates, and what Jenna had been wearing. The clinical nature of the data somehow made it both easier and harder to bear. "I saw them again yesterday," Marissa reported one morning, placing a coffee on his desk. "He was wearing a gray suit this time. Armani, by the look of it." They seemed very familiar with each other. Cole nodded, adding the information to his file. "Did you get any photos?" "Two." Marissa pulled out her phone, showing him clear shots of Jenna and Travis entering the hotel together. In one, they were laughing about something. In the other, Travis was opening the door for her, his hand on the small of her back. "I'm sorry, Cole. I know this must be killing you." "It already has," he replied, his voice hollow. "I'm just gathering evidence for the funeral." One Wednesday evening, Cole decided to get closer, to hear their conversations for himself. He sat in the hotel bar, angled away from the lobby, but close enough to hear them when they passed. "Next week might be tricky," he heard Jenna say as they walked by. "Cole's been asking more questions about my running routine." Travis laughed softly. "You could always tell him you joined a gym. That would explain the schedule." "He's not stupid," Jenna replied, her voice carrying a note of worry. "But he trusts me. That's all that matters." The casual way they discussed deceiving him made Cole's blood boil. He recorded the conversation on his phone, adding it to his growing collection of evidence. Soon, he would show her exactly how wrong she was about his trust. AT home that night, Cole watched Jenna go through her post-run routine. She took a shower, probably washing away Travis's touch, then came to bed as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't just been in another man's arms, as if their marriage wasn't a carefully constructed house of lies. "Good run?" he asked, his voice carefully neutral. "Great," she smiled, settling into bed. "I think I'm really improving my endurance." Cole turned away, disgusted by her performance. In the darkness, he pulled out his phone and added another entry to his evidence file. Wednesday, 10:45 p.m., returned home claiming to have been running. Actually spent evening at Grand Plaza Hotel with Travis Reynolds, room 412. Left hotel at 10:15 p.m. The next day at work, Cole reviewed everything he'd gathered. Photos of Jenna and Travis entering and leaving the hotel. Dates and times of their meetings. Recordings of their conversations. Hotel receipts he'd managed to obtain. Text messages he'd glimpsed. Witness accounts from Marissa and even a few hotel staff members who'd been willing to talk. "What are you going to do with all of this?" Marissa asked, looking at the extensive file on his computer. Cole's voice was cold when he answered. "I'm going to wait for the perfect moment. Then I'm going to show her exactly what happens when you betray someone who gave you everything." He needed one more piece of evidence, one final, undeniable proof of their affair. Then he would act, and the carefully constructed lies of their marriage would come crashing down around them all. He already knew how he would do it. He'd follow them to the hotel one last time, get the room number, and catch them in the act. The thought made him sick, but he needed that final piece of evidence. Needed to see it with his own eyes. To have something so undeniable that Jenna couldn't possibly twist it around or make him doubt what he knew. Because this wasn't just about ending their marriage anymore. This was about justice, about consequences. That as he drove home that evening, Cole thought about how different his life had become in just a few short weeks. He'd transformed from a trusting husband into a private investigator, documenting his wife's infidelity with cold precision. The man he'd been 6 months ago wouldn't recognize him now, but then again, the woman he'd married 8 years ago wouldn't recognize Jenna either. They'd both changed, but while his transformation had been forced by her betrayal, hers had been a choice. She'd chosen to destroy their marriage, to throw away years of trust and love for hotel room meetings with Travis Reynolds. Soon, she would learn exactly what that choice had cost her. Soon, all her carefully constructed lies would crumble. Soon, Cole would show her that sometimes the biggest mistake you can make is underestimating the person you're betraying, that he just needed that one final piece of evidence. Then everything would change. The morning sun filtered through Cole's office window as he reviewed his evidence one final time. 3 weeks of surveillance had given him everything he needed. Marissa entered without knocking, closing the door behind her. "They're meeting tonight," she said, placing a fresh coffee on his desk. "I overheard her on the phone in the parking garage." Cole looked up from his computer. "You're sure?" "Crystal clear." She was talking to him about dinner reservations at the hotel. 8:30 p.m. Marissa hesitated. "Are you really going to do this tonight?" "I'm done waiting." Cole's voice was steel. "I've watched them long enough. Tonight it ends." "What exactly are you planning?" Marissa perched on the edge of his desk, concern etched on her face. "I'm going to catch them in the act. No more hiding, no more lies." He turned his computer screen toward her, showing a detailed log of dates, times, and photographs. "Look at this. 6 months of deception, all documented." "Cole!" Marissa's voice softened. "Have you thought about what happens after?" "After?" He laughed bitterly. "After, I throw her out. After, I file for divorce. After, she can live with the consequences of her choices." The phone on his desk buzzed. A text from Jenna. "Working late tonight. Don't wait up." "Working late," Cole read aloud, his jaw clenching. "She doesn't even try to be creative anymore." "What did you tell her?" "Nothing. Let her think I'm clueless." He stood, gathering his jacket. "I need to make some arrangements. Can you clear my schedule for tomorrow?" "Already done." Marissa straightened up. "What about the Henderson account?" "Push it to next week. After tonight, I might need a few days." "Cole!" Marissa called as he reached the door. "Be careful. People do crazy things when they're cornered." He nodded, his hand tight on the doorknob. "That's exactly what I'm counting on." At home, Cole went through the motions of his evening routine. He changed out of his work clothes, started dinner, and waited. At 7:15, right on schedule, Jenna came home. "Something smells good," she said, dropping her briefcase by the door. "But I can't stay. I have to head back to the office. Big project, due tomorrow." "The Henderson account?" Cole asked innocently. Watching her face, Jenna barely hesitated. "Yeah, that's the one. You know how these deadlines are." "I do." He stirred the pasta sauce slowly. "The Henderson account that we postponed until next week?" Her smile faltered for just a moment. "Different Henderson. You know how common that name is in business, right?" Cole turned off the stove. "Don't work too hard. I won't be too late." She kissed his cheek quickly. "Don't wait up." "Wouldn't dream of it." As soon as her car pulled away, Cole sprang into action. He changed into dark clothes, grabbed his phone and keys, and headed out. The familiar drive to the Grand Plaza Hotel felt different tonight. This wasn't about gathering evidence anymore. This was about ending it. He parked in his usual spot across the street, watching as Jenna's car pulled into the hotel parking garage. 10 minutes later, the silver BMW arrived. Travis stepped out, adjusting his tie. Completely unaware that tonight would be different, Cole waited until they both entered the hotel before making his move. He'd learned the staff's routines over the past weeks. James, the evening desk clerk, always took his break at 8:45. The replacement clerk, a young woman named Rachel, was new and less familiar with the regular guests inside the lobby. Cole approached the desk confidently. Rachel looked up with a professional smile. "Good evening, sir. How can I help you?" "I need to know which room Travis Reynolds is in." Cole kept his voice steady. "He's expecting me." "I'm sorry, sir, but we can't give out guest information without." "It's room 412. Cole cut her off. "He's there with my wife right now. You can call up if you want, but I doubt they'll answer. They're probably too busy screwing to pick up the phone." Rachel's eyes widened. "Sir, here's my driver's license." He placed it on the counter. "And here's my marriage license. That's my wife's name right there. Jenna Matthews. Now, you can either confirm room 412, or I can start making a scene right here in your lobby. Your choice." The young clerk glanced between the documents and Cole's face. I could lose my job, and I've already lost my marriage. Which is worse?" After a long moment, Rachel nodded slightly. "Yes, it's room 412. But sir, if anyone asks, I found out on my own." Cole was already heading for the elevators. "Don't worry, I won't cause any property damage. This is between me, my wife, and her lover." As the elevator climbed to the 4th floor, Cole felt an eerie calm settle over him. All those weeks of watching, waiting, and gathering evidence had led to this moment. Tonight, Jenna would learn that her carefully constructed world of lies was about to come crashing down. The elevator doors opened, and Cole stepped out into the hallway. Room 412 was at the end of the corridor. He could hear muffled laughter through the door as he approached. For a moment, he stood there, hand raised to knock. Then he remembered every lie, every betrayal, every moment of the past 6 months. His knuckles rapped sharply against the wood. "Room service," he called out, disguising his voice slightly. There was rustling inside, followed by Travis's voice. "We didn't order anything." "Complimentary champagne for our valued guests," Cole replied, his free hand clenching into a fist. More rustling, then footsteps approaching the door. The lock clicked. This was it. No more waiting. No more watching. No more evidence gathering. It was time for the truth to come out. The door opened, and Travis stood there in his unbuttoned shirt, a confused expression quickly turning to shock as he recognized Cole. Before he could react, Cole shoved the door fully open, sending Travis stumbling backward. "Cole!" Jenna's scream pierced the air. She clutched the hotel bed sheets to her chest, her face draining of color. How did I find out?" Cole's voice was deadly calm as he entered the room, closing the door behind him. "That's what you're worried about? Not the fact that I caught you in bed with another man?" Travis raised his hands, trying to appear non-threatening. "Look, man, let's talk about this rationally." "Rationally?" Cole's laugh was harsh. "You want rational? Here's rational. I've spent the last 3 weeks documenting every meeting, every lie, every time you two sneaked into this hotel together. Is that rational enough for you?" Jenna scrambled to grab her clothes from the floor. "Cole, please, I can explain." "Explain?" He turned to her, his eyes burning with fury. "Explain 6 months of lies? Explain how you looked me in the eye every night and told me you were going running? Explain how you spent our anniversary dinner texting him?" "I never meant to." Jenna started, but Cole cut her off. "Never meant to what?" "Get caught." He pulled out his phone, scrolling through photos. "Here's you two last Wednesday, and the Monday before that, and the week before that. Should I continue?" Travis moved toward his jacket draped over a chair. "This is between you and your wife. Don't you dare move," Cole snarled, rounding on him. "You don't get to walk away from this. You've been screwing my wife for 6 months. You're very much a part of this conversation. What do you want from us?" Travis asked, his confident demeanor cracking. "What do I want?" Cole's hand went to his belt, slowly pulling it free from the loops. "I want you to feel something of what I've felt. The humiliation, the pain." Travis's eyes widened at the sight of the belt. "Now hold on." The first strike caught Travis across the chest, leaving an angry red welt. He yelped in pain, stumbling backward. "Cole, stop!" Jenna screamed, but Cole was beyond hearing. The second strike caught Travis's arm as he tried to shield himself. The third left a mark across his back as he turned to flee. "Not so brave now, are you?" Cole advanced on him, belt raised. Where's that confidence you had when you were sneaking around with my wife? Travis scrambled for the door, grabbing his clothes with one hand while trying to keep his balance. You're insane. No, I'm angry. There's a difference. Cole struck again, the belt catching Travis's leg. And you haven't seen anything yet. Travis fled into the hallway, barely managing to grab his shoes and jacket, his shirt hanging open. The sound of his bare feet slapping against the floor echoed as he ran toward the stairs. Not wanting to wait for the elevator, Cole turned back to Jenna, who had managed to pull on her dress but stood trembling against the wall. Your turn. Cole, please, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I love you. Don't. His voice could have frozen fire. Don't you dare say those words to me. Not after this. It was a mistake, she pleaded. I got caught up in something I couldn't control. Couldn't control? Cole's laugh was bitter. You couldn't control getting dressed up to meet him? Couldn't control checking into this hotel? Couldn't control lying to my face every single day? I'll end it, she promised desperately. I'll never see him again. We can work this out. Work it out. Cole grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the door. Oh, we're going to work it out all right. But not here. Not in your love nest. Cole, you're hurting me. Hurting you? He released her arm, but kept advancing, forcing her to back toward the door. You haven't begun to understand what hurt feels like. But you will. In the hallway, other hotel guests had poked their heads out, drawn by the commotion. Cole didn't care. Let them watch. Let them see exactly what happened when you betrayed someone's trust. Move. He ordered Jenna, pointing toward the elevator. We're going home, and then you're going to pack your things and get out of my house. Cole, please, Jenna sobbed as they entered the elevator. We could talk about this. We're done talking. The elevator doors closed on her tears. 6 months of lies. 6 months of betrayal. While I worked late to build our future, you were here destroying everything we had. The elevator ride was silent except for Jenna's quiet sobs. In the lobby, the young clerk avoided looking at them as they passed. Outside, the night air was cool against Cole's flushed skin. My car, Jenna said weakly, pointing toward the parking garage. Leave it. You can get it tomorrow when you pick up whatever's left of your dignity. Cole's voice was ice. You're coming home with me now. One last time. The drive home was tense with unspoken words. Jenna kept opening her mouth as if to speak, then closing it again when she glanced at Cole's rigid profile. Her mascara had run down her cheeks, leaving black trails that matched the darkness of the night around them. Cole's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were white. Every few minutes, his wedding ring would catch the light from passing street lamps, each flash a reminder of the vows Jenna had broken. This was just the beginning. The real storm would start when they got home, and Cole was ready to let it rain. The front door slammed behind them as Cole shoved Jenna into their house. The home they'd built together over 8 years now felt like a museum of lies. Every photo on the wall a monument to her betrayal. Cole, Jenna started, her voice trembling. Can we please just start packing? His voice cut through the air like a blade. I want you out of my house in an hour. This is my house, too. Some spark of defiance returned to her voice. You can't just throw me out. Cole rounded on her, his face inches from hers. Your house? The house I paid for while you were spreading your legs for Travis at the Grand Plaza. That's not fair. I contributed. Contributed what? Lies. Cole grabbed a framed photo from the wall, their wedding portrait, and hurled it across the room. The glass shattered, scattering across the hardwood floor. 6 months, Jenna. 6 months of looking me in the eye and lying. I made a mistake. Tears streamed down her face. People make mistakes. A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill. A mistake is burning dinner. Cole's voice rose with each word. Fucking another man in a hotel room twice a week for 6 months isn't a mistake. It's a choice. Your choice. He stormed up the stairs to their bedroom, Jenna following close behind. Cole yanked open her closet, pulling out armfuls of clothes and throwing them toward the door. Stop it. Jenna tried to grab his arm. You're acting crazy. Crazy. Cole laughed, the sound devoid of humor. Crazy is telling your husband you're going running, while you're meeting your lover. Crazy is texting another man during our anniversary dinner. Crazy is destroying 8 years of marriage for hotel room hookups. It wasn't like that. Jenna protested, trying to catch her falling clothes. Travis and I, we connected. He understood me. Understood you? Cole dropped the clothes he was holding and turned to face her. Let me tell you what I understand. I understand that while I was working late to build our future, you were letting him fuck you in a hotel room. I understand that every kiss you gave me was a lie. Every I love you was a lie. They weren't all lies. Jenna's voice cracked. What we had was real. Was real. Cole pulled open her drawers, emptying them onto the floor. Past tense is right. Just like our marriage. He moved to the bathroom, sweeping her toiletries into a garbage bag. You know what the worst part is? You had so many chances to end it. To come clean. To choose our marriage over him. But you didn't. You chose him. Every single time. I didn't choose him. Jenna grabbed the garbage bag from his hands. I was confused. Lost. You were always working. Don't you dare blame this on me. Cole's roar echoed off the bathroom tiles. I was working to give us everything we talked about. The house, the future, the family we planned. He grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. Remember that conversation? When you said you wanted to start trying for a baby? Was that before or after you started fucking Travis? Jenna's face crumpled. Please, Cole. Please don't do this. We can fix this. Fix this? He released her shoulders and stepped back. There's nothing to fix. You broke it. Completely. Now get your things and get out. Where am I supposed to go? Call Travis. Cole's smile was cruel. I'm sure he'd love to have his mistress full-time. Oh, wait. He ran away like a coward, didn't he? Funny how quick he was to leave you behind. Jenna sank to the floor, surrounded by her scattered clothes. I'll do anything. Please. I'll go to counseling. I'll quit my job. Whatever you want. What I want. Cole walked to his dresser and pulled off his wedding ring. What I want is my wife back. The woman I married. But she's gone, isn't she? Maybe she never existed at all. He dropped the ring at her feet. It rolled across the floor, coming to rest against a pile of her discarded clothes. You have 30 minutes to get your things and get out. His voice was eerily calm now. Anything left behind goes in the trash. Cole. 29 minutes. He walked downstairs, leaving her sobbing among the wreckage of their marriage. In the kitchen, Cole could hear her moving around upstairs, gathering what she could. The sound of suitcases being dragged across the floor. Hangers scraping against closet rods. The occasional crash as something fell. 20 minutes later, Jenna appeared at the bottom of the stairs with 2 suitcases and several bags. Her face was streaked with mascara, her designer dress wrinkled and stained with tears. My car is still at the hotel, she said quietly. Call a taxi. Cole, please. Can we at least? $20. He pulled out his wallet and threw a bill at her. That should cover the fare. Consider it the last thing I'll ever give you. You can't just throw away 8 years. I didn't. He walked to the front door and opened it. You did. Now get out. What about the rest of my things? You can arrange to pick them up with my lawyer. Cole's voice was flat. I'm sure the divorce papers will give us plenty to discuss. Jenna's breath hitched at the word divorce. You don't mean that. You're angry now, but leave. Now. Each word was carved in ice. Before I throw your things into the street myself. She took one step toward him, hand outstretched. I love. Don't. The single word carried such venom that she flinched. Don't you ever say those words to me again. Jenna's hand dropped. Slowly, she gathered her bags and walked to the door. On the threshold, she turned one last time. I'm sorry. For everything. Sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught. Cole's question followed her into the night, that he watched from the doorway as she walked down their driveway, suitcases rolling behind her like the wreckage of their marriage. When she reached the sidewalk, she pulled out her phone, presumably to call a taxi. Cole closed the door before he could see if she looked back inside. He surveyed the damage. Broken glass from the wedding photo littered the floor. Clothes and personal items were scattered across the stairs. 8 years of marriage destroyed in a single night, but that wasn't true, was it? The destruction had started 6 months ago, with Jenna's first lie. Tonight was just the final act in a play she'd been starring in all along. Cole walked to his study and opened his laptop. His email to his lawyer was brief. Need divorce papers drawn up immediately. Evidence of infidelity collected. We'll bring files tomorrow. Then he poured himself a drink and sat in the darkness, listening to the silence of his empty house, knowing that tomorrow, the real war would begin. Morning light filtered through the blinds of Richard Parker's law office as Cole spread out his evidence across the mahogany desk. The lawyer examined each document methodically, occasionally nodding as he added items to his notes. "This is thorough," Richard said, holding up one of the photos. "Hotel receipts, witness statements, photographs. You didn't leave much room for denial." "I wanted to be certain." Cole's voice was steady. "When I confronted her, I needed it to be ironclad." Richard leaned back in his leather chair. "Did she admit to the affair?" "She was in bed with him when I walked in. Kind of hard to deny at that point." "And you're sure about moving forward with the divorce?" Richard's eyes were keen. "Some couples do work through infidelity." "No." Cole's response was immediate and final. She didn't make a mistake. She made a choice. Every time she met him, every lie she told, every night she came home pretending everything was normal, those were all choices. "Fair enough." Richard pulled out a thick folder. "I've drafted the initial divorce papers. Given the evidence of adultery, we're in a strong position. How aggressive do you want to be?" Cole's jaw tightened. "I want everything. The house, the investments, all of it. She can keep her car and whatever she managed to pack last night." "She'll fight it," Richard warned. 8 years of marriage, her lawyer will argue for an equal split regardless of the infidelity. "Let them try." Cole's smile was cold. "I have witnesses who can testify about her hotel meetings. Photos of her entering and leaving with her lover. Records of her lies. By the time we're done, she'll be lucky if I don't sue her for the cost of her running shoes." A knock at the door interrupted them. Richard's secretary poked her head in. "Mr. Matthews? Your wife's lawyer just called. They want to schedule a meeting to discuss terms." "Already?" Richard raised an eyebrow. "That was fast." "She probably ran straight to Daddy's lawyer," Cole said bitterly. "Tell them we'll meet. But make it clear this isn't a negotiation. It's a surrender." After the secretary left, Richard began organizing the evidence into categories. "You should prepare yourself. Divorce proceedings can get ugly, especially when there's this much anger involved. Uglier than finding your wife in bed with another man. Different kind of ugly. More public." Richard held up a photo of Jenna entering the hotel. "Once we file these as evidence, they become public record. Everyone will know, family, friends, colleagues." "Good." Cole stood and walked to the window, looking out over the city. "Let them know. Let them see exactly who she really is. What about your job? This kind of scandal." "I've already talked to the partners." Cole turned back to face Richard. "Showed them the evidence. Explained why my work might suffer for a few weeks. They're behind me completely. And her job? Not my problem anymore." Cole returned to his seat. "When can we file?" Richard checked his calendar. "I can have everything ready by tomorrow. But first, we need to discuss strategy for the meeting with her lawyer." "Simple strategy. I want the house. I want the investments. I want her gone." Cole's voice was iron. "She can keep her clothes, her car, and whatever dignity she has left, which isn't much. Mr. Reynolds, her lover, any chance he'll become involved?" Cole's laugh was harsh. "Travis? Last I saw him, he was running half-naked down a hotel hallway. Something tells me he won't be rushing to her defense." "Good. The less complicated, the better." Richard began writing on a legal pad. "I'll set up the meeting for tomorrow afternoon. Give her lawyer a chance to review our evidence. Maybe we can avoid a prolonged battle." "They'll try to negotiate," Cole said, standing. "They'll talk about her contributions to the marriage, her rights under the law. Let them talk. My terms aren't changing." As Cole headed for the door, Richard called after him. "What if she apologizes?" "Really apologizes?" Cole paused, his hand on the doorknob. "She had 6 months to apologize. 6 months to come clean. 6 months to choose our marriage over her lover." He turned back to Richard, his eyes hard. Now she gets to live with that choice. Outside the law office, Cole checked his phone. 3 missed calls from Jenna. 2 voicemails. 7 text messages. He deleted them all without reading or listening. His phone buzzed again. Marissa from the office. Mr. Matthews? The partners would like to meet with you this afternoon. They say it's important. Tell them I'll be there in an hour. Cole started his car, his mind already moving to the next battle. And Marissa? Thank you. For everything. Of course. She paused. Are you okay? No, he answered honestly. But I will be. Once this is over. As he drove toward the office, Cole thought about the meeting ahead with Jenna's lawyer. They would try to paint her as repentant, as deserving of a second chance. They would appeal to 8 years of shared history, to the love they once had, but Cole knew better. The woman he'd loved was gone if she'd ever really existed at all. In her place was a stranger who had looked him in the eye and lied for 6 months straight. That stranger deserved nothing but the consequences of her actions. News of the affair spread through their social circle like wildfire. Cole sat in his office, reviewing emails from friends and colleagues, each message a mix of sympathy and barely concealed curiosity. His phone buzzed with a text from his mother. Just heard from Linda Parker about Jenna. Coming over tonight. No arguments. Cole sighed and typed back, not necessary, Mom. I'm fine, 7 p.m. I'll bring dinner. A knock at his office door interrupted his response. Marissa entered, her face concerned. Mr. Matthews? Mrs. Reynolds is in the lobby. Cole's head snapped up. Travis's wife? Yes. She's demanding to speak with you. Send her in. Cole straightened his tie. Preparing for another confrontation, Rebecca Reynolds stormed into his office, her designer handbag clutched like a weapon. Is it true? About Travis and your wife? Would you like to see the pictures? Cole's voice was calm. I have quite a collection. How long? Rebecca's voice trembled. How long were they? 6 months that I know of. Cole pulled out a file. Started around March. Every Monday and Wednesday at the Grand Plaza Hotel, room 412. He spread out several photos across his desk. They weren't exactly subtle about it. Rebecca picked up one of the photos, her manicured hands shaking. That lying bastard told me he was working late. Business meetings, he said. She looked up at Cole, tears in her eyes. I found your wife's number in his phone last night. Listed under Gym Partner. Gym Partner? Cole couldn't help but laugh. That's original. Jenna told me she was taking up running. What are you going to do? Already doing it? Divorce papers were filed this morning. Cole leaned back in his chair. You're welcome to copy my evidence for your own lawyer. Rebecca sank into a chair. Travis moved out last night. Said he needed time to think. Called it a midlife crisis. And Jenna? Has she tried contacting him? According to his secretary, she's called the office 30 times since yesterday. Rebecca's laugh was bitter. Apparently, she's not taking the hint. Cole nodded. She's staying at the Crystal and on 4th Street. Room 237. In case you want to have a chat with her yourself. Rebecca stood, gathering her composure. Thank you, Mr. Matthews, for telling me the truth. She paused at the door. Are you going to forgive her? Eventually? No. Cole's response was immediate. Some things can't be forgiven. After Rebecca left, Cole's phone buzzed again. A text from his friend Mike saw Jenna at Starbucks. Looking rough. She asked about you. Cole typed back. Not interested. She was crying, man. Said she made a huge mistake. Her mistake was getting caught. Delete her number, Mike. The rest of the afternoon brought a parade of similar messages. Friends trying to mediate, colleagues offering support, acquaintances fishing for gossip. Cole ignored most of them, focusing instead on the divorce paperwork Richard had sent over to AT645. His office phone rang. Jenna's number. Mr. Matthews? Marissa's voice came through the intercom. She's called 6 times in the last hour. Keep blocking her. Cole gathered his things, preparing to leave. If she calls again, tell her to contact my lawyer. In the parking garage, he found Linda, Jenna's best friend, waiting by his car. You have to talk to her, Linda said without preamble. She's a mess, Cole. She's lost everything. She threw everything away, Cole corrected. There's a difference. She made a mistake. A 6-month mistake? With multiple hotel visits per week? Cole's voice echoed in the concrete structure. That's not a mistake, Linda. That's a choice. She loves you. She loved sneaking around with Travis Moore. Cole unlocked his car. Now she can love being alone. Your marriage meant nothing to you? Linda stepped in front of his door. 8 years together, just gone? Cole's eyes hardened. Ask Jenna that question. Ask her what our marriage meant when she was checking into hotels with another man. Ask her what our anniversary meant when she was texting him during dinner. People can change. Yes, they can. I've changed. Cole opened his car door. I've changed into someone who doesn't accept betrayal. Now move, or I'll have security remove you. At home, his mother was waiting on the front porch with takeout bags. She hugged him tightly as soon as he stepped out of the car. I ran into Jenna at the grocery store, she said, following him inside. She looked terrible. Good. Cole took the bags to the kitchen. She should. Cole. His mother's voice was gentle. Holding on to anger. I'm not holding on to anything. Cole started unpacking the food. I'm letting go. Of her. Of our marriage. Of every lie she told me. He turned to face his mother. The woman I married never existed, Mom. She was a fiction. A character Jenna played until something better came along. And when Travis left her? That's her problem now. Cole grabbed plates from the cabinet. She chose him. Let her live with that choice. They ate in relative silence, his mother watching him with concerned eyes. Finally, she spoke again. Your father would be proud of you. For standing up for yourself. Cole's fork paused halfway to his mouth. Dad never trusted her. Did he? He said she was too good at playing roles. Too perfect. His mother reached across the table, squeezing his hand. He wanted to be wrong? After dinner, Cole checked his email one last time. A message from Richard caught his eye. Meeting with her lawyer tomorrow, 2 p.m. Be prepared. They're going to fight dirty. Cole closed his laptop, a cold smile playing on his lips. Let them fight. He had truth on his side, documented in photos and witness statements. Jenna wanted a war? He'd give her one, and when it was over, she'd understand exactly what her betrayal had cost her. The divorce proceedings became the talk of their social circle. Cole sat in the conference room of Richard's law office, watching Jenna's face crumple as their prenuptial agreement was read aloud. Her lawyer, an expensive corporate type named Douglas Freeman, tried to interrupt. This prenup was signed 8 years ago, Freeman argued. Circumstances have changed. My client has contributed significantly to their marital assets. Your client contributed adultery to the marriage, Richard countered, spreading photos across the table. Would you like to explain to the judge how 6 months of hotel meetings with Travis Reynolds represents a positive contribution? Jenna flinched at Travis's name. Cole, please. Can we discuss this privately? No. Cole didn't even look at her. Everything goes through the lawyers now. But our history is exactly that. History. Cole turned to Freeman. Your client violated the fidelity clause of our prenup. Section 4, paragraph 3. That means she forfeits any claim to marital assets acquired during our marriage. Freeman shuffled through his papers. We'll contest the validity of that clause. Times have changed. Courts are more sympathetic. Go ahead. Cole's smile was sharp. Contest it. Then I'll submit every photo, every hotel receipt, every witness statement as evidence. I'm sure the judge would love to hear Marissa's testimony about seeing them at the Grand Plaza. Or maybe Rebecca Reynolds would like to share her thoughts about her husband's affair with your client. Jenna's face went pale. You talked to Rebecca? She came to my office. Wanted to thank me for the evidence she's using in her own divorce. Cole finally met Jenna's eyes. Funny how quickly Travis abandoned you when everything came to light. Almost like he didn't really love you after all. That's not fair. Neither was lying to me for 6 months. Cole turned back to Freeman. Here are my terms. She gets her car, her personal belongings, and whatever's left of her dignity. I keep the house, the investments, and everything else. Non-negotiable. Freeman leaned over to whisper to Jenna, but she pushed him away. Cole, I've lost everything. My friends won't talk to me. My family is ashamed. I had to move into a tiny apartment. You had a choice. Cole's voice was ice. Every time you met him, every lie you told, every night you came home pretending everything was normal, those were all choices. Now you get to live with the consequences. 2 weeks later, Cole stood in his kitchen, reading the final divorce papers. Richard had called to say Jenna had signed them without contest. Her fight had died when Travis filed a restraining order after she showed up at his office for the 5th time. The doorbell rang. Cole opened it to find Marissa holding a bottle of wine. "Thought you might need this," she said, stepping inside. "Just heard they finalized everything." Cole grabbed 2 glasses from the cabinet. "Freeman called this morning. Tried one last time to negotiate. And I told him what he could do with his negotiation." Cole poured the wine. "She gets exactly what I offered. Nothing more." Marissa sat at the kitchen counter. "Have you heard? She lost her job. Apparently, sleeping with a major client's husband isn't great for business. Travis was her client, one of her biggest. Rebecca made sure everyone in their industry knew about the affair." Marissa took a sip of wine. "Last I heard, Jen is working at a small firm across town. Entry-level position." Cole nodded, feeling no satisfaction or pity. "And Travis?" "Rebecca took him for everything. He's living with his brother in Ohio." Marissa studied Cole's face. "Are you really doing?" "Honestly." Cole looked around the kitchen, at the space that had once been filled with Jenna's presence. "Better. It's like waking up from a bad dream. Everything's clearer now. The partners mentioned a promotion might be coming your way. Senior partner track." Cole smiled slightly. "Apparently, the way I handled the divorce impressed them. Showed strength of character or something. And personally," Cole walked to the window, looking out at the garden he and Jenna had planted together. "He'd torn it out last weekend, preparing to start fresh. I'm rediscovering who I am without her lies clouding everything." He turned back to Marissa, started playing basketball again, reconnected with old friends. "It's liberating. And dating?" "Not yet." Cole shook his head. "Need to clear out all the old ghosts first." Later that evening, after Marissa left, Cole checked his mail. Among the usual bills and advertisements was a letter from Jenna. Her handwriting on the envelope looked shaky, desperate. Without opening it, he dropped it in the shredder. His phone buzzed with a text from Linda. "Saw Jenna at the park. She was crying on a bench. Don't you think that's punishment enough?" Cole typed back, "She made her choices. Now she lives with them." Another buzz, "She still loves you." Cole blocked Linda's number without responding. At his desk, he opened his laptop to finish some work. A photo popped up in his social media memories, him and Jenna on their last vacation, both smiling at the camera. He deleted it, then deactivated his account entirely. Time to start fresh. No more looking back. No more wondering what he could have done differently. No more questioning if there had been signs he'd missed. The next morning, Cole woke early, made coffee, and sat on his back porch watching the sunrise. The empty garden bed waited for new plants, new growth. In his office, a stack of files represented his path to partner. In the garage, his old basketball waited for the game he'd scheduled with friends that weekend. His phone rang. His mother. "I saw Jenna yesterday," she said without preamble. "Mom, let me finish. I saw her, and I finally understood. That woman isn't the person we thought she was. Never was." His mother's voice was firm. "Your father was right about her all along." "I know. Are you happy, Cole?" He looked out at his backyard, at the future stretching before him, clean and uncluttered by lies. "I'm free," he answered. "And that's better than anything she could have given me." After hanging up, Cole went inside to get ready for work. In his closet, he found one of Jenna's scarves that had fallen behind a drawer. He threw it in the trash without a second thought. The betrayal would always be part of his story, but it wouldn't define him. He'd survived it, grown stronger from it. While Jenna's life crumbled around her, his was just beginning again, and he would never look back.